Hello, I'm Erik Robey.
And I'm Karla Schaffer, and this is Anne Arundel County Week in Review. Making headlines this week. Animal control has been all over the news this week after officers rescued 51 dogs from a home in Pasadena where a breeding operation got out of control. The department was forwarded an anonymous complaint made to the county executive's office that a smell from the house was noticeable a block away. Inside the house, they found scores of Yorkshire Terriers, poodles, mixes, and several other breeds of dogs, young and old. The dogs were rescued and taken to animal control, where the staff acted fast to get the word out. Within 2 days, the dogs were all cleaned up, treated for fleas and other ailments, spayed and neutered, and placed in new homes. It was a record day for animal control, where prospective parents lined up 100 deep for hours to see the dogs. County Executive Leopold said of the operation, "Hoarding is a serious issue for the owner, the pets, and the community. I want to congratulate everyone at Animal Control for a job well done." The owner of the home in Pasadena could receive a small fine for having more dogs than zoning allows, but officials said the most important thing was that the dogs were placed in safe and loving homes. You can read more about the success story and check out videos and pictures of the dogs on Facebook. Just go to www.facebook.com/AAC Animal Control.
Well, County Executive Leopold joined his colleagues in Prince George's, Howard, and Harford counties to remind Congress that the time is now to approve federal funding for roads near military bases. County Executive Leopold often jokes that BRAC doesn't stand for base realignment and closure, but rather better rely on the county. That's because Anne Arundel County has spent more than $4.5 million on road projects around Fort Meade. Statewide, the county executive and his colleagues, including also the mayor of Laurel, said there's a lot more to be done. Statewide, Maryland has more than $1 billion in construction needs around our military bases. The president has been clear that there is a need for infrastructure to spark the economy and create jobs. The time to act is now. The county executive sent a letter outlining their concerns to the congressional delegation in the House and the Senate.
This week, the Anne Arundel County Fire Department responded to 1,376 calls for service. This included more than 1,053 emergency medical calls and 106 fire calls. This week, one resident and 2 pets were fatally injured due to a carbon monoxide incident in their home, and numerous businesses and roadways were shut down for an extended period of time when a large propane tank was reported leaking at an Arundel Mills construction site. With us now to tell us more about these incidents is Division Chief Michael Cox of the Anne Arundel County Fire Department. Chief?
Thanks, Karla. On Tuesday, March 22, 2011, around 8:30 a.m., Anne Arundel County firefighters were summoned to the 5600 block of Sands Road in the Lothian area of the county. Upon arrival, crews were informed by neighbors of a strange smell or odor in the neighbor's residence. Firefighters quickly donned full protective clothing, including self-contained breathing apparatus, and entered the home. Once in the home, firefighters obtained carbon monoxide readings well over 800 parts per million. During the search of the residence, firefighters also discovered the body of a deceased male who was estimated to be in his mid-60s, along with 2 deceased cats. Firefighters immediately ventilated the dwelling in order to reduce the concentration of carbon monoxide to acceptable levels. After achieving tolerable levels, the incident scene was turned over to Anne Arundel County Police and representatives from the Office of the State Medical Examiner who were conducting an investigation into the death. In a second incident, Anne Arundel County firefighters responded to a reported gas leak in the 7600 block of Arundel Mills Circle. First unit to arrive on the scene reported that a 1,000-gallon propane cylinder was leaking at the construction site for the new Longhorn Steakhouse. Crews immediately evacuated the area within a half-mile radius of the site and awaited arrival of the members from the fire department's hazardous materials unit. The evacuation affected other construction sites and some businesses in the area and closed a portion of Arundel Mills Circle. Workers at the scene advised a tank began to leak when they were attempting to move the tank from one part of the construction site to another. During transit, the tank fell from a forklift that was being utilized to lift the tank, damaging a valve on the tank. Hazmat crews attempted to secure the valve with no avail. Representatives from the propane company and the Maryland Department of the Environment also responded to the scene to assist. Crews were finally able to mitigate the problem by doing a controlled release of the product, which ended at about 2 p.m. Karla?
Thanks, Chief. County fire and police officials advised that a search of the residence where high carbon monoxide readings were found did reveal a generator was found inside the residence. Although officials are unsure whether this was the cause or a contributing factor to the high carbon monoxide levels, fire officials want to remind all residents that appliances and equipment such as furnaces, heaters, stoves, dryers, and generators that utilize fossil fuels all produce carbon monoxide. Residents should ensure these items are all utilized in a well-ventilated area and in accordance with manufacturers' recommendations. Residents should also make sure that working carbon monoxide detectors are also employed in the home where these types of appliances or equipment are utilized.
Well, there's more Week in Review to come. When we come back, we'll be talking with Capitol reporter Erin Cox, and you're going to want to stay tuned for this one because her and her husband were in the nation of Japan just 2 weeks ago when the 9.0 disastrous earthquake struck. Now take a look at the community calendar for what's happening around the county, and stay with us. We'll be right back.
County Executive John Leopold wants to remind all residents that an animal should never be left unattended in a vehicle during the hot summer months. Even on a mild day with the windows cracked, the temperature inside will rise quickly, causing imminent harm or death to pets. If an animal control officer sees an animal left unattended in a vehicle, a criminal citation will be written, and the owner of the vehicle must appear in court and face a potential fine of $500 and 30 days in jail. Don't put your animal in harm's way, even on a mild day. Don't leave any pets unattended in vehicles.
And welcome back. Well, 2 weeks ago, the eyes of the nation turned to the nation of Japan as the nation underwent a major earthquake and a tsunami, a major disaster that the likes of this world hasn't seen in many, many years. One of our Anne Arundel County residents and reporters that was actually in Japan vacationing during this tragic event was Miss Erin Cox from the Capitol, and she joins us today. Erin, thanks for joining us. I know this is 2 weeks now that you've been away from the country of Japan. You and your husband were there vacationing. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, we planned a 10-day vacation to visit our friend of ours who lives in Tokyo. And we had been there for about a week, long enough to figure out what we liked and some of the curious things about Japan. For instance, they like to wear face masks while walking down the sidewalk, but they don't wear helmets on bicycles. Every time you walk into a store, they give you a greeting that kind of means, excuse me, I'm sorry I exist.
Wow.
And, they like their beds firm and they're so tofu soft. So we had been there about a week learning those things, and we were in Hiroshima last Friday, which was the day the earthquake hit.
And tell us a little bit about that. In Hiroshima, we're talking about Hiroshima 700 miles south of Tokyo, so far away from the earthquake, the actual epicenter of the earthquake.
Yeah, well, it's 700 miles south of the epicenter of the earthquake.
Of Sendai.
Yes, Sendai.
Okay, so 700 miles south of Sendai. So you felt nothing. It was a normal day for you guys in Hiroshima. Didn't even know this had happened until you turn on the TV or you start hearing reports. How do you find out about this?
We were in the train station at the time the earthquake hit, which was about 3:15 Japan time, and we were waiting to get on a 3:25 train back to toward Tokyo. And the woman at the information desk told us that our train had been delayed because of an earthquake. And there had been a couple of minor earthquakes earlier in the week in Tokyo, so we figured, they told us at the time it would just be 5 minutes that we were delayed. So we started to sit around waiting, and then, the people started to gather around television screens, and the tsunami by that time was starting to make landfall. So we watched as, water started rushing into this area under a bridge, and then started lifting up cars, and they started floating like buoys, and then the next thing you know, sheds are floating, and then big fishing boats are floating, and then entire buildings are floating, and then all of a sudden it just crashes into the bridge. And we don't speak Japanese, we don't really understand Japanese, we can't even translate it with a little book, so we had somebody point out to us where the danger was, and it was clear that it was about 700 miles away.
So could you tell us a bit about your decision to head northward toward the disaster? I think normally a tourist would say, when's the next flight home? But you actually wanted to head toward the earthquake to report on it.
Well, at first we were just attempting to continue with our vacation. That we had booked a hotel in Kyoto, which is considered one of the most Japanese of Japanese cities. And we were kind of attempting to just continue on with our vacation. And so we made it that far north. That was as far north as we could have gotten that day. And by morning, news of the earthquake had spread all around the globe. And my husband's editors at the Washington Post had let him know that they would appreciate if he could pitch in. And I think we had about a 3-minute conversation about what we wanted to do. And, we didn't want to be a part, and we're reporters, so we like to, sit in the front row of history as much as we possibly can. So it was a pretty quick decision to decide to figure out how in this country where we didn't speak the language, we didn't understand the culture, we couldn't read the street signs, how we were going to get ourselves an additional, I think 500 miles north into a disaster zone where there wasn't power, there wasn't trains, to figure out how close we could get to the disaster.
So at this point, you're 500 miles south of the disaster zone.
Yeah.
So what is the atmosphere? What is the mood of that area?
Again, we, reporters try to observe, and it is really difficult to do when you can't understand what's going on. But from the best that we could tell, it was still somewhat a state of shock. That that there was a growing awareness of the magnitude of the tsunami and the earthquake. Every television that's on in a public place is tuned to a news station that is replaying the reels of villages turning, being swept up and turning into flotsam and then rolling over itself as it goes across rice paddies. I'm sure it's the same footage that everybody saw on their TVs here. But the Japanese culture isn't, there were a lot of stories in various different newspapers about how people weren't rioting or panicking. Very much a culture of perseverance.
An honor.
And yes, an honor. And so things were relatively calm.
So people aren't rushing where you are right now. They're not rushing to the supermarket. They're not gathering bottled water. They're just calmly going about their day with a little bit of a shock.
Right, and the day after the earthquake, in the morning, we decided to go back to Tokyo to try to figure out how we get closer to the disaster. And we spent several hours in a Tokyo train station, and other than the footage on every television, we couldn't really tell anything was different. And we were sitting in a bar waiting for our translator to come meet us, and the bar owner came and told us that they were closing early because of the earthquake.
So how close did you make it to Sendai, and what was the mood there?
We made it to a coastal town called Soma, which is, I think, about maybe 15 miles south of Sendai. The coast of Soma was one of many that was just erased by the tsunami. All of the roads, were buckled. A lot of places they looked just broken crisp, like graham crackers or something, and so we couldn't physically drive out there, and we had to hire a cab driver to take us out there because of the gas shortages. It was hard to find a way to get around. So we went to a town that had been, rocked by a 9.0 earthquake. So everything's cracked, a little rigid, and we went into some shelters that were housing people who had escaped. We talked to one man who had lived, by a fishing pier and had spent all of his life collecting seaweed. And that industry is gone. The building is gone. His way of everything he has is gone. We met a man who he owned a business, kind of like a place where businessmen come after work to drink and eat. And it was on one side of the train tracks, and the train tracks had acted like a barrier for the tsunami, and it had come right up there and washed away the entire town up until where his business was, and he was kind of perched on the frontier. And so even though his property had survived to some degree, his lifestyle had not. And my husband interviewed a woman who had walked out the door to go get her child from daycare, and had she left a couple minutes later, would have never been
Seeing
able,
her child again.
right, and would have been swept away herself. And you know, they recite these stories to you in the calmest of terms, as though they were just telling you what was on their grocery list without, you know, maybe that's part of the cultural barrier that, you know, we're working through a translator. But, you know, the sort of gut-wrenching devastation of it came across in the calm way that they told you the story.
And how many, you and your husband, both reporters, how many media types did you encounter there in day 2 or 3 of this ordeal?
I mean, I think we met, the only other group of reporters we came across were, actually there were 2 groups. One was another Washington Post correspondent who we'd been talking to and had met us at the same hotel in Fukushima, and the group of people he was traveling with. And then there was one very harrowing point where we were trying to get out to those shelters, and there was a taxi cab carrying reporters from another newspaper in the opposite direction because they were evacuating.
Yeah.
The Soma is in the Fukushima prefecture, which is the one that has the power plant.
Correct.
And we were driving in the direction of the power plant to get out there. And when we saw the reporters coming in the opposite direction, it was about 20 minutes after we'd heard both a warning for a 3-meter tsunami and news that a hydrogen explosion had just happened at the power plant. And so we were, you know, there's the language barrier and there's a cultural barrier and there's a geography, you know, lack of geographical knowledge. It was unclear to us whether, you know, this power plant was right over the ridge or was significantly far away and we were totally safe. So and we were really concerned. We thought we had bought face masks, but we don't read Japanese and had accidentally bought tissues. So we did the best we could and tucked them under our glasses. And, you know, everyone driving in the opposite direction is wearing face masks. And we're concerned that we don't know what this threat is. We don't know what this risk is.
Sure.
And then we get to these shelters and people are, you know, with all this devastation outside, they're sitting there serenely playing cards, flipping through a Justin Bieber book, watching their children sleep. And, you know, it's a very, very heartbreaking thing to see this devastation and people dealing with it so calmly and knowing that the end is nowhere near in sight.
Yeah, that's the key here. Erin, I tell you, I got, you know, just hearing that you guys were over there, and we knew when the earthquake happened, the first person we thought of, well, Erin Cox and her husband are over there on vacation, so we're glad that you guys made it out there okay. You know, and hats off to you for what you guys did to go up there and cover the story for the Capitol and the Post. This will be something that, you know, you want it to be on the front lines of history. You were on the front lines of history. And thanks for your great work that you do at the Capitol.
Thank you.
All right, folks, well, we'll take a break, and when we come back, there'll be more Week in Review.
There's a place not so far away, a place where you don't have to keep the volume down. You'll find all sorts of creatures in this place without have to. The silly you, the proud you. You may even meet the curious you.
It's tickling me! You!
Ask your parents to take you to this not so far away place. Come to the forest, where the other you lives. But first, stop by discovertheforest.org.
Welcome back. Well, on March 17, 2011, members of the Anne Arundel County Police Department's Vice Unit executed a search and seizure warrant at 7258 Mockingbird Circle in Glen Burnie. Joining us now is Public Information Officer Justin Mulcahy with further details on the investigation. Justin.
Thanks, Erik. This concluded an investigation into a suspect at this residence selling steroids in Anne Arundel County. Upon searching the residence, detectives recovered approximately 125 pills believed to be an anabolic steroid, 321 liquid vials of suspected steroids, a cardboard flat containing new glass vials used to package the liquid steroids, numerous bags of vial lids, 2 crimping tools used to secure the lids to the vials, also numerous small Ziploc bags, 2 cell phones, a sharps container, and a Glock 22 40 caliber pistol. Now, the suspect in this case was subsequently arrested and charged with multiple CDS, which stands for Controlled Dangerous Substance, charges. That suspect is Leonard Phelps, age 29, of 7258 Mockingbird Circle in Glen Burnie, Maryland. Moving on now to our second incident, which took place on March 20th around 4:15 in the afternoon. That's when officers from the Eastern District responded to the area of Mountain Ridge Court and Hospital Drive in Glen Burnie for a report of a strong-arm robbery of a citizen that just took place. When officers arrived, they spoke with the victim, a 20-year-old male from Glen Burnie, who advised that he was walking in the area of the Mountain Ridge community when he was approached by 3 male subjects. The subjects demanded property from the victim and then forcibly took a shopping bag containing various property prior to fleeing the scene. A description of the suspects was broadcast, and officers responding to the area located the 3 suspects near Elvaton Road, and they were positively identified by the victim. They were arrested and charged with robbery, second-degree assault, along with false imprisonment. First suspect was charged as a juvenile. That was a 16-year-old male from Glen Burnie. Suspect number 2 was Deon T. Williams, age 18, of 8221 Severn Orchard Court in Severn, Maryland. Suspect number 3 is Joseph Williams, age 18, of 7878 Tall Pines Court, Apartment F, in Glen Burnie, Maryland. Now, as always, folks, if you have any information on any crimes or suspects mentioned on the show, don't hesitate to call, email, or text your tip to Metro Crime Stoppers Hotline. It's available 24 hours a day, toll-free. The number is 1-866-7-LOCK-UP. You can also text message MCS plus your message to CRIMES. That's 274-637. Also, visit the website at www.metrocrimestoppers.net. Remember, phone calls are not recorded and callers remain anonymous. You might be eligible for a cash reward of up to $2,000. Back to you, Eric.
Thanks, Justin.
Well, did you tune in late for Week in Review because you were stuck in traffic tonight? That's okay, because we air every day in the morning and evening, and we're also online, but that still doesn't fix the traffic problem. County Executive Leopold has appointed a citizen advisory committee whose job it is to find solutions to our gridlock. The group is helping craft the Transportation Functional Master Plan, which will guide decisions in the future. The committee was appointed after listening sessions were held all over the county to hear from citizens. Speaking of the committee, County Executive Leopold said, "An efficient transportation network is vitally important to enhancing our economic development in order to remain competitive in the region and global economy." You can find out more about the Transportation Master Plan by going online to www.aacounty.org and clicking on the link on our homepage. This week, the Anne Arundel County Police Department announced Operation Hide, or Handicap ID Enforcement, an initiative focused on providing enforcement and deterrence to motorists who fraudulently use handicap placards, tags, and commit handicap parking violations. All 4 patrol districts will participate in the operation, which began on February 21st, 2011, and will continue through November 20th, 2011. Uniformed personnel from each district will take part in an enforcement week in February, May, August, and November, targeting handicap parking violations at shopping centers and malls in the county. Also, during these scheduled weeks, officers will target individuals using fraudulent handicap placards, tags, or using handicap placards and tags without proper authorization. The Americans with Disabilities Act requires commercial areas to reserve parking for disabled drivers. Many motorists use handicap spaces without using a proper placard or tag, by using another family member's placard or tag, or using a deceased person's placard or tag, thus needlessly taking handicap parking away from people who really need it. According to the Motor Vehicle Administration, a placard for persons with a disability is valid for 4 years, and a temporary placard may be valid for anywhere from 3 weeks up to 6 months. Registration stickers must also be applied to plates every 2 years. Placards must be hung on the inside rearview mirror. If the vehicle does not have an inside mirror, or the inside mirror is not visible from the rear, you may display the placard on top of the dashboard on the driver's side. The placard side displayed must show the expiration date of the disability placard. The point is, viewers, be sure to keep your copy of the medical certification in your possession whenever you use the placard or plates, and this must be presented to law enforcement upon request. Anyone committing fraud or misrepresenting themselves when applying for or using a parking placard for people with disabilities is subject to a fine of up to $500. If disability conditions are not met, the plate or placards may be revoked.
I think I know everything about that now, Karla. I'm fortunate, there are a lot of people out there with disabilities, and this is a very serious issue. And it's good that we're able to explain that to folks, that here's the proper way to do it, make sure you're doing it, so that when folks come in and they see somebody that's parked in one of these disability slots that do not have the proper documentation, they can report that to law enforcement officials and we can address that
That's
situation.
Right. We were very thorough.
So, thank you for pointing all that out to us. Well, folks, good news is summer's coming soon, and it's not too early to start thinking about swimming programs. In this week's Recreation and Park Spotlight, Carolyn Ryan is at the Arundel Olympic Swim Center with our own swimmer extraordinaire, Franklin Cheney, to talk about swimming. Carolyn.
Thanks, Erik. We're here at the Arundel Olympic Swim Center with Franklin Cheney, Chief of Recreation Services.
Thank you for having me today, Carolyn.
Absolutely. So, gearing up for swim season, what's going on here at the pool?
Well, first is the Arundel Olympic Swim Center. Last year, we celebrated our 20th birthday party here. So we're in our 21st year. It's still a wonderful facility, a great place for the family to come out. But this place is very, very popular for our adult swimmers. It's a great place to get a good workout. And then a lot of people say swimming is the best workout. So, as you see the pictures of this facility and everything that's happening, it's just a great place for citizens in Anne Arundel County.
Great. Now they offer lessons and open swimming?
Well, certainly for kids programs, as soon as you're potty trained, you're ready to start taking our classes at the age of 3. You take introductory classes and then you kind of work yourself through the program. So the programs kind of started last week, so still time to get in for this year. If not, gear up for the next session.
Great. And how do people get information about the programs here?
Well, the best, certainly you can call here. The number's 410-222-7933. Certainly call here or go on our website. And as it's helped our website out very much, www.aacounty/recparks. It's a great website to learn about not only this facility, the other North Arundel Aquatic Center, and all the rec programs that we have.
Great. Well, thank you very much for being on the show.
Well, thank you for being here, and hope the citizens really enjoy the sites here and come out, because it's open, all Saturday, Sunday, during the week. It's just a great place to be and great exercise. And as we learn more and more of the world today, getting exercise and being safe is a great thing to do.
Great. Maybe we'll see you out there doing a few laps. Back to you in the studio.
Thanks, Carolyn. Well, I tell you, I can't wait to open up my pool. Just something about swimming in the summer, and you just can't wait to be there for swimming. But we got a little guest with us today.
Yes, we do.
From the Annapolis Area Christian School, we've got Victoria, who's been involved in job shadowing today. She got to job shadow me for the day. I hope you enjoyed yourself.
I did.
How lucky.
How lucky. I don't know about that. But she got to job shadow a government official. I know this is Junior Job Shadowing Day at the Annapolis Area Christian School, and we were pleased to have you with us. And your grandmother is a county employee. She is a legislative aide to one of our council members, Rose Brooks, and we're happy to have Victoria here, who is not a swimmer, Karla, but a dancer. And tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I've been dancing since I was 3, and I started off just doing ballet and tap and jazz. But as I progressed, I got involved with point and lyrical and started competing. So it was great. It's been a great experience, and I love it.
So have you ever done a dance called Zumba? It's the Zumba thing. It's this new craze that's it's spreading all throughout the county, I guess all throughout the country, I would imagine. Have you ever heard of it?
I've heard of it. I haven't done it yet, but the studio that I go to, they're teaching classes, and I've wanted to do it. So in the future, I probably will.
Yeah. Would you recommend doing
I do Zumba. It's fun. It's a fun way to exercise, and she'd be amazing at it, unlike the rest of us. So.
Yeah. So how's life at Annapolis Area Christian School? You're a junior in high school, getting ready to go into your senior year here next year. A lot of big plans for yourself?
Well, I mean, I have the future planned out in my mind, but you never know if it's going to work out like that. But so far, I've loved high school. It's been great. Junior year has actually been the hardest for me, but, I'm getting through it. It's a struggle, but I'm going.
Yeah, I think junior year is the hardest
year
of high school in general. So what are your future plans that you were talking about?
Well, after high school, I plan to go to a college for dance and then hopefully go into a ballet company afterwards and see where that takes me.
Well, best of luck to you, Victoria. You're going to help us close out the show here. So at the very end, we're going to tell everybody goodbye as soon as I tell everybody how they can watch us. Now, for me, kindergarten was my hardest year. Well, that wraps up this week's edition of Week in Review. You can watch this episode online anytime at www.aacounty.org. Archive episodes are available at blip.tv and YouTube by searching for Anne Arundel County Week in Review. You can also subscribe to the free video podcast at iTunes. All right, folks, please tune in again next week for more highlights and news from around the county, and You're on cue. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
See ya.